The other thing about Santa Cruz was we hit a lot of labs. So a lot of ours was dealing in large-scale cocaine processing labs where coca paste or coca base were made into cocaine base or cocaine HCl in these big chemical labs. And most of them were in very remote places. And so we would have to go out and hit those. And in doing that, we were hours, if not days, from any definitive care. We were outside, a lot of times we were outside helicopter range because they had Hueys, but Hueys only had a 200-mile fuel range. So if we were outside that, which a lot of times we go in vehicles, if something happened and somebody was wounded seriously, we were days out, hours, sometimes days to definitive care. And that happened several times with where we had to deal with those sorts of challenges and problems.
So it's probably pretty helpful having your background as a PJ then, right?
Yes, it was. Well, helpful to other people.
Yeah.
As long as I could have treated myself. And that was one of the things that I kind of thought about after a while is, wait a minute. So I did a lot of medical training, emergency medical training with the teams that I ran.
But how unusual was it for you to do what you were doing in Bolivia? I mean, it's much different than sitting in a London, right? Yes. I mean, you're actually out on the street with these guys, right?
Right, yes. Out in the street, doing undercover buys, if that's what it was, or hitting these labs. So I had a dual roles, which I loved. Again, it was sort of the same thing as I was lucky enough to have in Portland, was that I was given the responsibility from forming out of scratch their money laundering investigative capabilities, because they had none or very little. And at the same time, we were all, as agents, given teams out in the hinterland. They had these narcotics teams that were out in bases that we also had responsibility to go out and serve, to train. They basically, all their training, or most of it, almost all their equipment, or most of it, to include vehicles, everything like that. Their bases were mostly built by us, all came through DEA and State Department funding. But we pretty much administered the operational side of that.
Yeah.
So it was that duel where I ended up having to play both those, wear both those hats. That was really, it was time. I just didn't have enough time in the day to do everything that I wanted to do. But to see and work with these cops and policemen that were really courageous and hardworking in the face of really daunting odds, which when you work overseas, you really realize, and most, I think, U.S. citizens, and certainly most law enforcement, police officers, agents, take for granted the protections and the little, what I call bricks in the wall, that have been built over time to make law enforcement possible and to make it have any chance of success, especially against the most sophisticated and dangerous and violent threats to society, the criminal organizations. When you're working in a country that does not have those, you realize how important they are.